Hello everybody, Michael here for Tactica Imperialis, and on screen is my loaned copy of the 7th edition rulebook. One of my friends, Luke, who did a Skype video with me a while ago, has bought 7th edition, and he has lent me this rulebook. I don't know how long I'm going to have it for. I'm probably going to have it for today, so I'm trying to get as much information into this video as I can on the off chance that I don't have it tomorrow to make some more. So this video is sort of a first impressions slash review slash thingy to do with 7th edition, because I haven't had enough time to scan everything and pore over every minute syllable. I haven't had the time to do that, but I've had a time to read through it. I've now got a bit more of the gist, and I think I can at least give a start of a review. I won't be able to really test it out until I've had some games with it. So, the first big change, obviously, well, before I even go into the rules, I have to say, I really like the way Games Workshop has done the new book. Fully hardback, but it's not too thick, and because the fluff and the collecting sections are separate, I think this is a really good way of systeming it. I do think they need to sell this book separately from the other books, just because there will be those who aren't that fussed about the fluff, aren't too fussed about the collecting, and just want the rules. I know many people like that, and so I think it would be a nice little money spinner, or just general common sense, to sell the rulebook on its own. I'll sell all the books independently as well as in a bundle, perhaps at a reduced price. Maybe 20 quid for one book and then the 50 quid bundle. Just a thought, Games Workshop, if you're watching. So, into the book itself. The first big change obviously came in Forsorg, and the lack of it, at least in Unbound. Battleforged, Unbound, I did think there were formations in this book, because I'd heard mention of them. No, that's my mistake. I mentioned that in my news and rumours, and it turns out they're not in here. They may come out later. Apparently there's one in the Orc Codex, according to one rumour, but we won't know. Forsorg is nice, it's exactly the same. Objective secured, though, is very, very handy. So, I have a few things around me, so give me one moment. This, pretend, is an objective marker. This is an Orc War Boss. He is now a scoring unit. Actually, that's not a War Boss, that's a conversion of Boss Necrop made to look like a War Boss. I'm going to show him off, actually. This is an Orc, I'm going to call him a War Boss, and he is claiming this objective. All units now can score. However, if I then decide to put... Find them. 3, 4. Where's Larry? Where is he? Where is he? Where is he? Where is he? Où est-il? I don't even know. Steal. If I then go and put my platoon command squad here as a troops choice in a battle-forged army, this troop unit overrules the war boss. So now they are claiming the objective. He no longer does. He will have to go and kill that squad in order to claim the objective again. Of course, in Unbound, this doesn't count and all units score evenly. But in Battleforged, troops overrule everything else. So this is a nice new addition. I think this is going to make troops very valuable for Battleforged armies. I know I'll be running at least 3. Because obviously with tactical objectives as well, it would be well worth your time having things that you can secure on top of everything else. Second thing, obviously, is Unbound itself. Forsorg has gone out the window, in part, and I think this is a great touch. I mean, yes, there will be those out there who will abuse this system. I am 100% sure of that. There will be those lists which are just incredibly powerful and incredibly broken and incredibly dumb. However, I do also see a lot of scope for a lot of fun with Unbound. For example, I have been toying with the idea of Imperial Guard with Tau allies. And in the old book, this was allies of convenience, and I do this fine. However, there were certain constructions I didn't want to do, and now in the new book, they are actually desperate allies because they've grouped all Imperial armies together. I'm going to come on to allies. So they're now desperate allies, making it less viable. I can do it in Battleforged, but in Unbound, I can do it even more. Plus, it gives every treadhead the ultimate opportunity to field a tank-heavy army pretty much without a troop in sight, or without a troop in sight. This is especially possible because Guard can actually have tank HQs and then just put 2 vet squads in Chimeras, and it's close to mech, but now you can have full mech. Plus, you can just have a lot more fun. For example, let's say you're a Space Marine player, and you've got a Terminate squad, a Stern Guard squad, a Dreadnought, and a Legion of the Damned squad. In Battleforged, you can't take them all. In Unbound, you stick a couple HQs in there, and that's your army. That's brilliant. I think that's a lovely touch, and I'm really glad they've done it. Yes, it has its problems, but I'm really keen on it. The second big change is in allies. Well, it's big, but it's not. The system hasn't changed that much at all. Battle Brothers, Allies of Convenience, Desperate Allies. The only real change there is that Cometh the Apocalypse no longer means you cannot ally, which is nice. So NIDS, you can ally with people. This is good. However, you follow all the rules for Desperate Allies. So, cannot have to have the one eye open, so on a 1 you can't do anything if there's an enemy unit in 6 inches, can't use warlord traits, count as enemies, could be targeted by enemy psychic powers, can't use warlord traits, can't go in transports, can't repair vehicles applying to the other army, and yada 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 yada. And you can't deploy within 12 inches of each other, meaning that your forces are going to be very, very separated. Even if you've taken minimal allies, they're going to be stranded 12 inches away from everything else. That's not so good. So Come with the Apocalypse is not that good. But it gives NIDS an option. And the Allies Matrix has received a severe downgrade. There are only now 3 proper systems left. All Imperial, Chaos and Demons, and Eldar and Dark Eldar. There are the only Battle Brothers left. All armies also Battle Brothers with themselves, for some reason. Although the Allied detachment is not allowed to be drawn from the same faction as the primary detachment. This only really applies to Imperials. Everyone else shouldn't be Battle Brothers with each other, but they are. Cause logic. Everything else is now Allies of Convenience, and they're few and far between, to be fair. There's not a lot of convenience out there. I can't show you the actual chart because spoilers and copyright, but it will be out there. I know when the rumours were around, Belafloss Souls leaked the Allies chart, so you can find it there. And it'll be on DACA probably. So it's taken a severe whack with the nerf bat, so almost everything now is Desperate Allies. Imperials have been grouped into one group. Instead of being, if you remember the 6th edition Allies chart, you had Space Marines, Dark Angels, Space Wolves, Blood Angels, Imperial Guard, Adeptus Sororitas, would now be Imperial Knights, Grey Knights, and so on. They are now Armies of the Imperium, which is good and also bad. Good because it makes the chart a lot less cluttered and overcrowded. Good. However, it also means that some of the Allies things that would work in some cases no longer apply. For example, Traitor Guard has gone out the window. You can't have Chaos allied to Guard anymore because they come with the Apocalypse. Well, you can, but it makes no sense. Which is daft. You cannot have Guard allied with Tau. I think this is a really cool, fluffy idea. They're desperate. When I think they should be convenience. They were convenience, they're now desperate. Orcs have gone to come with the Apocalypse. With Guard, I think they should be desperate. Grey Knights have gone from inconvenience with everybody to being Battle Brothers with everybody, making Grey Knights even better, which is slightly odd considering most people don't even know they exist. And Imperial Knights are of course Battle Brothers with everybody, but, well, they needed to get them sold somehow. So the Allies Matrix, I can see a lot of fun with it, I'm going to use it. Bear in mind that even if you play Unbound, the Allies Matrix still applies. So you'll start to follow the rules of the Matrix even. Well, not the detachment rules, the Force Org for Allies, but you'll still have to follow the Matrix in terms of how to deploy and all that. Bear that in mind. And I've gone on 9 minutes about Force Org. So, the second thing is obviously the Psychic Phase. I could spend 20 minutes prattling on about the Psychic Phase if I had the time, but I don't, so I'm going to keep this quite succinct. The Psychic Phase is cool. I haven't played with it yet, but it looks really awesome. Deny the Witch has got better, although you have to marshal your dice more carefully. Perils is now an actual risk. You actually don't want a Perils anymore, because instead of just being take a wound, it's now terrifying, particularly with high charge powers that you have to go after with a lot of dice. Yes, there is the one where you get a buff, and there's one where you get away with it, but you still need to pass a leadership test just to do that. The rest of the time you're getting whacked on a low result, you actually die, which is terrible. So Perils is now actually a viable risk. It's still not amazing, it could be worse, As in, it's not as bad as the one in Fantasy, the miscast chart, but it's still pretty bad, considering what it was. Regarding the powers, Santic Demonology. This one has gone in quietly because everyone's been banging on about Malefic. Santic is an interesting discipline. It's mixed up the Grey Knight powers, it's also stolen Gate to Infinity, it's also stolen Vortex of Doom and made it strength D. And that's it, really. So I'm not so sure about Santic. And it's only... Demons cannot use it. And anybody but Grey Knights, Perils is on any double. Only Grey Knights can cast it properly. Malefic, we've all heard about Malefic Demonology. With its summoning powers, 4 of them are actually summoning powers, one of which is Greater Demon, Lesser Demon, Midish Demons, and a Herald. So everyone's scared about that. The actual powers, so the Witchfires and Cursed Earth, which just buffs Demon Invulnerable saves, is nothing special. Yes, I can see why Cursed Earth would be terrifying if you're actually playing a Demon army, particularly with Zench, and its 4+ becomes 3+. Ow. Seriously, ow. So people are actually getting very scared about Malefic, particularly with the high access to Psykers that the demons have. However, Grey Knights cannot use it, thank God. And every other army, as with Santic, Perils is on any double. So, for everybody else, it's okay. Biomancy has taken a buff, Iron Armor's improved, Endurance now gives Eternal Warrior. Telekinesis has lost Vortex of Doom, I believe. I think it came from Vortex of Doom, it may have come from Telepathy. And it has also lost Gate to Infinity. It now has a power called Levitation, which is move as jump infantry pretty much. And it also has a power called Psychic Maelstrom, which is basically the old Vortex, pretty much. Telepathy is pretty much the same, apart from Invisibility is now Warp Charge 2. However, people are still worried about Invisibility because, well, hitting on 6s. Not good. Pyromancy is Pyromancy. I don't think it's changed that much. And Divination is still probably the strongest discipline. Prescience is now Warp Charge 2, but the powers in there are very good. I don't see why anyone else would. If you've got Divination and you've got enough Psykers to make it work, I would say go for it. One of the things that has sort of snuck in quietly is the fact that you can't cast the same power twice. So even, let's say you've got an Eldar Farseer who knows 3 powers from Divination, and then Prescience because of Psychic Focus, and then another Warlock who also knows Prescience because of Psychic Focus, level 1. If one fails to cast Prescience, the other one can't cast it. Or if the other one passes Prescience, the other one can't cast it. That's something that you need to bear in mind, because if you fail a power, you can't get a second attempt, which when it comes to re-rolling saves is actually quite important. Not much else has changed. Movement phase is pretty similar. Shooting phase, the only real change is in weapons. Now, I know I used to do this, and many people did this. They would collate their dice in a certain way. So, let's take, as an example, a 5-man Space Marine combat squad, if you will. Crying out loud, apologies for the noise. And this Space Marine squad has 3 bolt guns, a plasma gun, and the sergeant has a plasma pistol. So, here are my dice. These 3 white ones are my bolt guns. This yellowish one is the sergeant's pistol, and this one is the plasma gun. I know I would actually be rapid firing, but bear with me. Now, in the past, a lot of people would just collate all their hit rolls and do that. Oh dear, my plasma pistol just overheated. But a lot of people would do that. Now, you're not allowed. You have to resolve it one weapon at a time. So you might say, I'm going to do the pistol first, resolve the pistol, I'm then going to do the plasma gun, resolve that, and then I'm going to do the bolters and resolve those, and so on. So that's how that now works, which is important for flamer and blast weapons particularly, because flamer weapons now will have to be placed first to get maximum impact. If you leave it too late, the models will already be gone that they would have been covering. Blast weapons the same, and the wounds aren't stacking as much. So yes, multiple templates if it's the same weapon, great. If it's different weapons, they're disappearing away. That's something to bear in mind. And also, I would recommend firing shortest range weapons first in case they get knocked out of range if the longest ones fire. So always fire pistol weapons, melters, and stuff first, even if you might like to save your special weapons to the end. Unless they've got really long range, don't. Bad idea. Assaulting has been simplified. It's now, instead of rolling 3d6 for terrain, it's now -2, which is a lot simpler. Apart from that, not just changed there. Chariots have changed slightly. I was told about this by Luke, in that if the chariot died, the rider and chariot used to be treated separately. So if the chariot died, the rider could carry on in his Todd. Not anymore. They live and they die together. However, any rule that allows the rider to resurrect, i.e. I'm thinking reanimation protocols or Ever Living, applies to the chariot. So instead of the Catacomb command barge getting blown up and the Lord getting back up on his own, he brings his command barge back with 1 hull point. That's important. I don't know if there are any others that apply, but the one I can definitely think of is Necrons. Alright, where am I going next? Universal special rules, there have been a few tweaks, but not much. And then the big thing is the introduction of super heavies, gargantuan creatures. They're all been introduced. I think they're copy and paste from Escalation, but I don't own Escalation. Sadly, there are no data sheets for them in here. You have to go out and buy Escalation. Boo hiss. I wanted my Baneblade data sheet in here, people. Never mind. And then, of course, there's the tactical objectives. And tactical objectives are a mixed bag for me, because I like how they work. I love the idea of having random objectives that can change the game and change the way you play. I don't like games that are all the same. And it allows you to get points before the last turn of the game, which for me is a very good thing, because I have a knack of being forced off of objectives because of massed firepower. I'd rather have it secured and then lose it than never have the points for it in the first place. However, if a good draw of cards or rolls on the D66 table favour one person over the other, the person who's had a bad set of dice, or the person who's had a good set of dice, is going to run away with it. The person with a bad set of dice is screwed. This has happened a lot, and I have a worry that that's going to happen to the point where you're going to have to table your opponent if they've run away with it a fair bit. So that's a worry. Eternal War's still there, though, if you don't like tactical objectives. There's a new Warlord trait table relating to tactical objectives, and to represent, as it's just a small change, one of the Warlord traits has changed. In personal traits, it used to be you could make your Warlord a scoring unit. Now he's always a scoring unit. But you can now, that result has changed to it will not die, and I want to say fearless. I think it's fearless. It could be Eternal Warrior, but I'm 99% sure it's fearless. There's a nice appendix at the back with all the powers, all the weapons. Instead of being dropped in the middle like they were in 7th, all the rules and all the 6th, all the rules and all the weapons are at the back of the book. Very nice. There's no stat lines though, like there used to be, because now people know the whole point system, or they should. Although there are still armies who don't have a whole point in their codex. Anyway, that's another point. They'll be updated, I'm sure. So that was pretty much a quick review for me of 7th edition. What do I think of it? Just final thoughts. What do I think of 7th edition? I'm still quietly confident. I've been quietly confident about 7th edition. I think it's a good edition. It's ironed out some of the problems with 6th, i.e. the Allies chart, but it's also added a lot more freedom, such as Unbound and tactical objectives, which I think is a really good addition. I do think it's still slightly too heavily leaned towards shooting. Shooting armies still have a massive advantage in this edition compared to Assault. That didn't get fixed, or if it did, it didn't get fixed enough. So, it's good, 7th. Is it as good as 6th? Yes, probably. Will it have as long a shelf life as 6th? Certainly. Will it live as long as 5th and 4th and such? We'll find out, I suppose. So that's it for this video. Be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you have not. It helps the channel to grow, and I really appreciate it. Leave a comment down below with your opinions. Have you played 7th edition yet? What do you make of it? Have you not played 7th edition yet, and what do you make of it? I read all your comments and I try and reply to as many as I can. I do appreciate it. So thank you for watching. My name is Michael, and I will see you again.